This podcast is brought to you by Mapper Forward's new Patreon community, the Global Coffee Think Tank. Check the show notes or head to patreon.com/Mapper Forward to find out how you can become a member today. Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Mapper Forward, friends. I am joined by Anna Abatzoglou from ACE and from Cup of Excellence. Welcome back, Anna.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. We are cracking the code between the consumer and specialty coffee. And today we are going to be talking about how do we find specialty coffee consumers. And in a lot of the work that I do in my consulting work is a lot of customer acquisition planning. And, you know, helping people understand that just because you've opened a cafe, that doesn't mean that because it's a beautiful specialty coffee cafe, it doesn't mean everybody's going to show up. You've got to go out there and you've got to find who your actual consumers are. How do we find specialty coffee consumers today?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. And I think it is, like we were talking about earlier, you have just a smaller window to find them, smaller window of people drinking coffee, and people are drinking also maybe less coffee these days, where I think about the US, like back in the day, it was like, I'm going to sit here and have like refills and refills of coffee. And now it's like, maybe my mentality has shifted a little bit. I'm going to spend a little bit more on a coffee, but I'm just going to have one. I'm going to have smaller coffee. And so it gives us like less opportunity in a way. And, but there's like higher potential too, because people are open to spending a little bit more money on coffee and having that experience. So yeah, I go back to trying to get more people to try really, really good. Just take one little taste of this coffee, and without telling them what it is. We have actually, I was talking to one of our members in South Korea, and they said they would buy Cup of Excellence coffee but not label it as such. And
wow.
And they would surprise customers that would come in every day, get the same coffee, and sometimes they would give them Cup of Excellence coffee instead, see if they noticed. And they did. And they were it was a strategy for them to kind of develop that, change maybe their clientele to more of like higher end specialty coffee, just by not tricking them, but like there's something in, I guess like a not tricking, but like the unexpected gift.
Yeah.
And there's something about that customers just love. It's like you're going into you get that free sample, going into whatever, you're going to your favorite place to eat, and they give you like, in Greece, they always give you like a free dessert at the end of a meal.
Yeah.
And it's such a nice gift. Okay, we kind of expect it. It's not as unexpected, but it's a nice gift. So I think that like that surprise and delight aspect is always a good way to go.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that we don't do a great job of understanding who our individual business consumers are. And so the work that I do with my clients is, who are the people that you have built this business for? And then we assign customer personas. Like, we go into great depths of understanding who they are. And then, because the definition of specialty coffee is so different from country to country, from suburb to suburb, from business to business, because Starbucks will tell you, as Jimmy Canali recently told us on the podcast, he's a manager from the Starbucks Reserve Cafe. And when I referenced Starbucks as a commercial coffee business, he said Starbucks would disagree with the classification that they're commercial. They would consider themselves specialty. And so I think that an important part of finding who the specialty coffee consumer is, and perhaps I'm wrong on this, but we have to figure out how we define specialty coffee as an individual business, and how we define who the specialty coffee consumer for our business actually is, and what they're coming to us for. Because I even think for things like Cup of Excellence, they're wowed by the idea of Cup of Excellence, but I'm not sure that consumers understand what it means.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And do they, I mean, besides tasting it, how much do they care about?
Right.
We talk about, oh, people care about transparency, people care about, but does an average consumer care so much, or is that gonna make them become more of a, they know, oh, if I'm drinking specialty coffee, I know that there's going to be better tactics along every part of the value chain. Do they? I don't know. I mean, that's definitely part of it, but yeah, sorry, go ahead. Were you going to say
I
something?
have a question for you on that. So something that I'm curious about with regards to Cup of Excellence and consumers. Have you found that with your members, when they sell a Cup of Excellence coffee, have you found that it is something that brings in more customers? Is it something that their consumers understand, or is it something that it's a little indulgence for them as a business to be able to participate in the competition and support the growth of specialty coffee from the production end?
Yeah, I mean, some of our members have been working to, I guess, to educate and to really showcase and develop Cup of Excellence in their, not even in their country, but maybe with their client base. And they've been very consistent at it, and consistent buying Cup of Excellence coffee. So they were able to create like their own, Cup of Excellence culture within their store. And I hear like, oh yeah, we sell out immediately, because they know, they see that,
Wow.
that label, and they know it's really good, and it's like, the customers love that, like the idea of like rotation nation. That's what we call it in craft beer. It's like constant, like a new beer on new beer on tap. Like they love something different that changes, and so I think with Cup of Excellence, there's always like, oh, this is like, the 2022 Ecuador first place winner. Like there's nothing else like it. It's super, super unique. And that appeals to many people. And that's like also, I think that's also like a strategy with, yeah, like there are consumers, and yeah, I think about Starbucks. Is it specialty coffee? Yeah, they've done so much just to, from, we just talked in the last, or second to last episode, about employees being maybe not as energized, or maybe they're not, they don't want to talk about the coffee so much, but Starbucks does put a lot of effort into training, and that, like, that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so yeah, creating those experiences. And you see it even with like a place like Dutch Brothers, which is like the drive-through coffee chain that's growing like crazy. Here, well, it started here in the Pacific Northwest, but they're like all over Texas, and they have like that energy. Like they create that experience that that you remember when you're driving through in your car.
Yeah. That begs for a Snoop Dogg video where he's driving through and ordering something, and a whole music video evolves from something like that. That's the perfect scenario for a social media campaign right there. I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah, but like, yeah, it's like, how do you find your consumers? Like they found their consumer like by like, hey, my consumers are all in their cars, so I'm going to go to them. I'm going to make it easier for them, and that's always like, that's always like a thing. Like, where are the people? Where are the masses? And how do we start with that, and make it as easy for the consumer as possible to find you, path of least resistance.
We are going to, in the next episode, talk about how we go from where we're at right now to how we're going to look into the future, because so much is changing about the consumer, given the pandemic, given the inflationary environment that we're in. And the next 5 to 10 years is going to be very interesting for the specialty coffee industry. I almost feel that we are going to have a redefinition or a redefining of sorts for our industry if we're going to be able to evolve to the next phase. You hear people talk about things like fourth wave and beyond fourth wave, and I'm like, all of these things are so subjective with no definitions. But in the next episode, we're going to talk about how does specialty coffee have to adapt to the needs or the changing needs of consumers. So let's go and have that conversation.
Yeah.
Perfect. Let's do it. Thanks, Anna. Peace, love, and peanut butter, everybody. Have an amazing rest of your day. Thanks, friends. If you enjoyed this video, here's what you should check out next. Consider supporting Map It Forward on Patreon and be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell before you leave.